What's up guys, Aroneous here with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about Tainted SKAVAG. So Tainted SKAVAG is going to be the new spider boss. It's on hard mode, so I'm going to be going over a bunch of different champions that we could utilize or team compositions you could utilize to complete the new hard boss Tainted SKAVAG. First, we're going to be watching a brief clip of Tainted SKAVAG just to re-jog our memories, and then we're going to go from there. Make sure to leave in the comments down below what you think about the new hard dungeon bosses. Are you excited that they're coming to the game? I feel like there's not tons of hype surrounding it. Are you just not even caring about Raid Shadow Legends anymore? Let me know in the comments down below. All right, so let's go over and watch that video clip real quick. All right, here we go.
Let's move on to our next star, Tainted SKAVAG, and her endless brood of spiderlings. The changes to her dungeon should send shivers down your spine. First, Tainted SKAVAG is immune to turn meter reduction and HP burn.
Oh, great. Immune to turn meter reduction. Okay, and HP burn. So you can see we can still do the cap of 10%. Clearly, that looks like 10% to me. So we're doing the damage still with our Cold Heart here. But she's immune to the turn meter, so that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. So let's keep checking it out.
We're not kidding. In fact, if you've got HP burn on her spiderlings, each AP burn activation will now partially heal her. So
all right, so took 443k damage from the HP burn.
You'll definitely want to avoid that. And
healed by 147,000. That's kind of interesting. So 443,000 damage, 147,000 HP in return. That doesn't even make sense. I figured she would heal by more or by the same amount at least. So basically, you can still use HP burn, but the fight's a lot slower. Let's keep going.
Also, her spiderlings are immune to freeze, so that old trick won't save you either. However,
immune to freeze,
closes,
but not to stun.
One opens. Each time a spiderling dies, SKAVAG loses a chunk of her HP.
How much was that?
Upping your loses a
454k damage per spiderling that dies. That's very interesting.
Chunk of her HP. So, upping your area of effect game and blasting her entire clutch to Kingdom Come is now a viable strategy. Another saving grace is that hard mode spiderlings aren't any tougher than they are on stage 25 of normal mode.
Oh, that's easy.
So if you can splat them there, you can splat them here. Overall, hard mode dungeons live up to their name, and taking them on is well worth the effort.
All right, so let's get back to the tavern here. Let's take a look at some champions. I'm going to talk a little bit about SKAVAG and why I think she's honestly going to be super easy. If you can beat stage 25 of the spider boss at this point with no problems, you should be able to take on SKAVAG with no problems either. Let's get back there. All right, so I found it super interesting that the amount of HP that she healed was roughly 30% of the HP burn that she got in damage. So in that case, you can still technically bring in HP burners. However, they would have to have a crazy amount of HP, crazy amount of defense, and a crazy amount of turn meter as well, or just not turn meter, speed, I should say. So you have to make sure you're bringing in champions with high speed, high HP, high defense. Obviously, the threshold caps are going to be a little bit higher. Plus, they haven't really talked much about the resistance that's going to be required or the accuracy that's going to be required on these dungeon bosses, these brand new hard dungeon bosses. You know, and SKAVAG could end up having really high thresholds for accuracy. So you got to be really careful. You know, you could go with super high accuracy, super high stats if you're like an endgame player and have no problems whatsoever with just continuously doing the HP burn. Because if you think about it, you could still do a poison explosion with Sakia Flametongue, right? Doesn't she do a poison explosion? Now, I don't have her on my free-to-play or my pay-to-win account, and this is my free-to-play account I'm on right now, but you could basically do a poison explosion, or not poison. Yeah, you could do that too. You could do the explosion with Theodore, and then just reset with Kymar, and then do it again. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong here because she is kind of healing very similar to what a Vogoth would heal. You know, where a Vogoth heals by 25% of the damage that he receives, right? So if you think about it, it's very, very similar to SKAVAG. SKAVAG is just healing a little bit more than Vogoth, But still, when you nuke Vogoth, he typically still dies if you do enough damage to him. So the same thing is going to apply, in my opinion, to SKAVAG, Tainted SKAVAG. If you come in with this HP explosion champion, then you might not have any issues, right? So it's going to be a longer run. True, you probably will have some issues. Of course, if your gear isn't that great, your speeds aren't that great, then in that case, you're going to need to come in with all damage and support. So in terms of bringing in help with resistance, Oella, I've been testing her out, and she is actually a really good champion. I have her in completely random gear, and I just 60'd her recently. I got her at 234 speed, 409 resistance, and when she brings in that increased resistance buff, she's going to gain, based on her resistance she currently has, another 200 resistance. That's going to help you reduce and not have to worry about meeting crazy thresholds, right? If you're a free-to-play player like myself, or you're a low spend and you're struggling with your gear to get to a specific level and making sure that you can get your stats up to a specific level, then you could bring in Oella to help you. And her heal, people talked a lot of crap about this heal, but honestly, this heal is a lot better than you think. And I will be doing a showcase on her too, so stay tuned for the showcase. She's actually a lot better than I expected her to be, and she's really, really good in Bommel. Anyways, we're not talking about Bommel here. We're talking about SKAVAG, all right? So I got to get back on the subject here. I saw a squirrel, and then I came back. All right, let's do this. So another champion you could utilize, or a champion that I really, really like, is Lanatharil. Of course, he's going to bring in the giant shields. He was a fusion or a fragment fusion champion. Then he's got the ally attack, right? Ally attack's actually going to be insane here. If you have stun set champions, so stun set's going to be massive, right? So if you have Lanatharil, and then you've got Mother Sibeli, which is probably who I'm going to end up using. You got Mother Sibel. Now, I do have her in the Temporal Chains blessing. However, I could end up changing that if I needed to, but I think I'm going to keep it on her for now. Whereas Lanatharil, he has the Brimstone blessing. So if he hits the main boss, the Spider Queen or SKAVAG, Tainted SKAVAG, then he could place a Brimstone. Brimstone's going to do big damage against these bosses. Just in general, especially against the Doom Tower bosses, Brimstone's ridiculous. So having Brimstone, even a 1-star blessing, as long as you can hit the accuracy thresholds, is going to be massive against the bosses, just in general. Now, he's going to also help with the massive shields. If one person dies, he places a 30% shield based on his max HP on all the allies, and it cannot be removed, okay? It's awesome. Obviously, the Spiderlings aren't removing your shields or any of your buffs, at least as far as I know, based on that brief video. And then, of course, you've got the Finest Hour ability, ally attack, increase crit damage. Then you can bring in her to reduce the speed because she has the reduced speed on the A1, and it's a full AoE, so you could potentially, I have her in triple perception because I use her in a certain area of the game, but put her in a stun set, and then with the ally attack, she could go with a double attack, right? So she's going to A1, then do it again, and then she's also going to bring the Revive on Death on a 3-turn cooldown, which is pretty insane. And then if you put her in the masteries, now, of course, I have her in counterattack masteries, but you could go down with the Master Hexer. It's pretty fantastic. She's going to be a great champion. Of course, you can't really use Ninja here. They're immune to freeze, so don't even worry about Ninja, and probably most people won't have Ninja. Of course, you could bring in Arbiter for the revives, for the healing, for the speed up if you're struggling with speeds. You could also bring in Mithrala Lifebane if you have her, because she's going to help with petrification. So if she places the hex on all those little spiderlings, they attack one ally, they could end up being petrified. Okay, so it doesn't say that they're immune to petrification. Plus you got the increased defense on all allies, increased attack on all allies, plus you can put on strengthen and remove all the debuffs, and she has 80 accuracy. I mean, Mithrala is just so good. She's going to be so good against these new dungeon bosses. So there's Mithrala. Then you've got Lydia. Lydia's insane. She's got the A1, which of course, if she attacks one of the, or counterattacks a spiderling, they could get feared. We got the decreased defense and weaken, which of course is going to be crazy, because I feel like you could still bring in nuke champions like Coldheart. You can bring a Coldheart. You can bring in a Royal Guard still, technically. Of Of course, you have to have a lot of support around them so they're not getting demolished by those spiderlings, or by the Spider Queen, because the Tainted SKAVAG could end up having crazy amounts of damage now. So you got to be very careful with getting one-shotted by Tainted SKAVAG. And of course, bringing in a strength in here on her A2, and Mithrala paired with her, bringing in more additional strengthens to hopefully make sure we don't have those strengthens fall off at all. And then you've got your insane Ultimate Death Knight. Ultimate Death Knight's going to be ridiculous for this stage. There's just so many good champions right now for these hard Doom Towers that are just free-to-play champions because of fusions, fragment summons, login rewards, missions. There's so many things we can use now. And plus he has a fear, and then he has the decrease attack. It's awesome, man. Now it's 80% chance of placing a fear debuff on a legendary champion, so you kind of have to dismiss the fears, I will say. But the decrease attack is still very beneficial against those spiderlings, and of course against Tainted SKAVAG. And then he has shields, continuous heals. And then of course, whenever he's hit, you guys know he's going to soak up the damage, 100% chance, to completely block one hit. The spiderlings do what? One hit at a time. So he's going to take the damage. You put him extremely slow in a stone skin set. Of course, I could make mine a lot slower than this. It would be a lot better if he was slower, but I don't think my stat threshold is going to be great enough for the hard dungeons in regards to just 372 resistance. I feel like they're going to scale it up extremely high. You're going to need like 500 or 600 resistance or some crazy stuff like that with like 500 to 700 accuracy, I'm assuming. Now, if they don't do that, then it's going to be way too easy, in my opinion. If you're bringing in hard dungeons, it needs to be hard, okay? It needs to be way harder than the original dungeon, and it needs to be fun, okay? Getting this mythical artifacts is going to be phenomenal for anybody's account, but don't bet on getting the mythical artifacts that often. Now, of course, you could also bring in an increase accuracy champion if you need the help with increased accuracy for this stage. If you need to, because you can't deplete the turn meter, but you can place HP burns, you can place stuns on the spiderlings, things like that. But of course, if you just wanted to go pure damage, you could also bring in Mighty Uko. He's not the damage dealer, but he does bring in that decrease attack. Again, another fusion champion, free to play. Let's go. They're just bringing in crazy free to play champions that are for fusions these days. It's awesome. Increased speed. I just hate that he uses this ability when people are still alive and not dead, and all he does is place increased speed. That's kind of annoying, but you know, it is what it is. But he does have that ally attack, or attacks all enemies and then decreases their attack. So that's pretty fantastic. And then of course he could place the decreased accuracy as well, which is going to be helpful and beneficial for your team to reduce the amount of resistance that you need on your team if you're going to go the resistance route. Now, a lot of endgame players are just going to nuke this thing down with a Charisma in like 2 seconds, but of course, if you don't have a Charisma, which most people don't, I don't have a Charisma. Matter of fact, I only have literally one Void Legendary in almost 4 years of playing this game. So that's a little bit challenging for me. That's why I have a lot of fusions. And then you could also bring in, because of course the spiderlings can't be Terminator control, so Rosin's not going to be the best. He's good for the decreased defense and weaken. He's better for up to stage 25 of dungeons, but I'm not sure he's going to be that great there in the new dungeons. And then you've got, where's my damage dealer? Skull Crown. Skull Crown's going to be insane. Also going to be pairing really well with ally attack. So that's going to be pretty awesome. Of course, you can have, if you have a Duchess, use her. You know, if you have bolster sets, use bolster sets. And bring in heavy shields if you're having struggles. Bring in a shield set if you're really early game and you just want to do the first level of hard dungeons. You could possibly get by with that. Like, for example, I have a shield set on my Harvest Jack, 115,000 HP. He's very slow, but he definitely doesn't have the accuracy to do anything. He's just there with the shield, and that's literally it. So I don't know how well that's going to do, but if you do bring in shields, then you're going to, I'm assuming you need the champions to take down the boss as quickly as possible, or the spiderlings to get killed as quickly as possible so the boss can take a large chunk of damage for every dead spiderling. Now, again, highly suggest Skull Crown. Could you use Mashald? You could, but I don't know how heavy hitting he's going to be unless you have Savage or Lethal on him. So that's going to be difficult. He could kill spiderlings, absolutely, because when he places that True Fear, he has that weird passive where it'll attack enemies under leech. So it's not the True Fear, it's actually the leech that it goes based off of with his A1, where he attacks one enemy and then attacks all the other enemies and does pretty significant damage. Of course, you have to have him booked out to do the most amount of damage possible. Free-to-play problems, I don't have any books. So I'm definitely going to be using Skull Crown because she has Crushing Rend, and Crushing Rend is an amazing ability. Ignores 1% of defense for every 10 levels. So I'm going to assume that these spiderlings are going to be level like what, 350? Are they going to be Doom Tower level? I'm assuming they are, but I could be wrong. I don't know for sure. The dungeon hasn't come out yet, but we're prepping and planning, and most people think that the dungeons are going to start next week. So make sure you get ready if you're trying to focus on planning now. Of course, you could bring in a Vogoth if you're having struggles, where he does provoke, and then the spiderlings are going to attack him, and then therefore it's going to start healing your team if you're struggling with staying alive. That's a actually really good champion. Now, this Vogoth is not in a provoke set. I do have a secondary Vogoth, though, that I have in a provoke set. Personally, I do like provoke set. So if you're struggling with accuracy, provoke set does not require accuracy. Actually, all sets in general typically do not require accuracy. If for some reason you know of a set that does require accuracy, you can leave it in the comments down below, but I don't believe any sets require accuracy. So that's kind of cool thing about having these types of sets in the game. Other champions you could potentially utilize, of course, some people are just going to bring in Crypt King Grawl, and they're going to bring in Theodore, and they're going to bring in, what's her name? So the one that was actually showcased. I don't remember her name though. Skinwalker, Tumesia. So Tumesia does have a really strong ability where she attacks one enemy. Damage increases by 40% for each active HP burn debuff in battle, and it scales up to 400%, which she's kind of meant for spiders. Plus, whenever an ally receives a freeze debuff, 50% chance of replacement with HP burn, yada yada yada. Whenever an ally or an enemy is under HP burn debuff, this champion is immune to everything. So that's pretty sick. And then on here, attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of placing an HP burn for 3 turns, which is pretty cool too. But just the fact that she has this heavy hitting ability, the only issue is the turn meter reduction is not going to work, and it does say here, decreases the target's turn meter by an additional 15% for each active HP burn debuff in battle. Better for a stage 25 of dungeons, regular dungeons, but for hard dungeons, she's not going to be doing that turn meter. She's just going to be hitting very hard. And then of course, any AoE damage dealer, just in general, you could bring in. Biggin. Biggin might actually make it back into the scene with a lethal set. Attacks one enemy and attacks all enemies. Attacks all enemies, stuns, decrease accuracy. Attacks all enemies 2 times, decrease speed. Biggin is actually ridiculous, and he has a 90 accuracy in dungeons. If you have Biggin, take him out of your vault. Take him out of your vault. Biggin is going to be insane. And then of course you have Ignatius, he hits hard, but of course the HP burns could be a negative impact on you unless you can kill the spiderlings as quickly as possible. Let's see other champions we can use. You could potentially do a crazy seer composition. Now that I think about it, you could do a seer comp with a reset. Seer might be OP for this hard Doom Tower, or hard dungeons. Okay, so if you go to Seer here, she does the crazy damage, increases according to the number of removed buffs. So if you place a ton of buffs on yourself, you could use Mashald, who places buffs on your team and then takes an extra turn. You can use the Archmage Helmet, places a bunch of buffs. You could use pretty much anybody who places a ton of buffs. Mausoleum Mage, Epic Champion. George places buffs as well, increase attack. You know what I mean? Old Hermit Jorg. So many champions place buffs. I don't think they thought about this though. Oh boy. Did Plarium think this through? I think Seer is going to be overpowered for this dungeon. Because if she can just nuke all the spiders down with one hit, which I'm assuming she's going to, then yikes. You know what? I kind of want to see something. Wait a minute. Let me just do something real quick. I'm going to waste some energy here just for you. Just for you. So here's the team. Of course, if I can one-shot the Spiderlings here on stage 25, it's gonna be a problem for hard dungeons. Keep saying hard Doom Tower, I don't know why. But for hard dungeons, it's gonna be a problem, okay? So I'm just gonna manual this just to see, because people could potentially bring in reset champs with Seer and have ridiculous gear. Because they did state in the video that the Spiderlings on stage 25 are gonna be the same as the Spiderlings in hard dungeons. I don't know if they thought this through. Wait a minute. This might make this boss way too easy. See how much damage we already did with just Mashald, and he's not even in good gear for me for Savage. He's in trash gear. All right, let's see. Oh my god. Wow. People are going to be able to one-shot. People are going to be able to one-shot. I can see it now. They're going to do a reset, one-shot. Yikes. Give a thumbs up if you like this, guys. Leave in the comments down below. What do you think about that composition with just Seer? If the Spiderlings are going to be that weak, I just did stage 25, okay? Manual. If someone brings in a reset champion with better buffs than that, Duchess, just OP champions, it's over. Like, it's going to be way too easy in my opinion. But of course, you're still going to have to meet accuracy thresholds. You're probably going to have to meet other thresholds, other speed thresholds. So in that case, it would make the new hard dungeon bosses extremely difficult because it's all a matter of your gear. Okay? So we'll see what happens. Leave in the comments down below. What do you think about this new hard SKAVAG, Tainted SKAVAG? And I'll see you on a video soon. Peace.